in my opinion, is just as much a skill set as it is an investment strategy, right? How do you solve somebody's problem without doing it in a traditional means? Or how do you solve somebody's problem that the traditional means can't solve? Which is what we're seeing more and more of in today's market, right? High interest
Yeah.
rates, which Ted, right? If you're going to go get bank loans and you have higher interest rates, the amount of money you have to put down on that property in order to get a cash flowing asset is significantly higher.
Are you looking to achieve massive success in your life without dealing with costly investment nightmares? If yes, then this is the podcast for you. Here, we provide engineers and busy professionals all the secrets and strategies to create multiple streams of income, build generational wealth, and live a meaningful life by design. Here's your host, Ted Patel.
Welcome back, Decoding Cashflow listeners. I'm your host, Ted Patel, and today we are joined with Zachary Beach, CEO of Smart Real Estate Coach, a company helping W-2 employees transition to creative financing real estate investor. He's an author and a partner in multiple ventures. Zach went from bartending at 24 to completing hundreds of deals without bank or large capitals. So get ready for a game-changing insight from Zach. Zach, welcome to Decoding Cashflow.
Ted, I appreciate you having me on. This will be a blast, I'm sure.
I'm pretty sure. So Zach, before we dive deep into your niche, right, can you give us listeners a little bit background about yourself? How did you get started into real estate?
Yeah, for sure. I always like to tell people, look, I was a poor kid growing up in a rich town. So as you can imagine, I still have that chip on my shoulder. And I did a lot of things growing up because people just told me I couldn't. So I went to college because people told me I couldn't. So when I got out of college, I had zero idea of what I wanted to do. So I did what every, good college graduate does is he starts bartending. So I bartended late nights, and then I needed to make some additional income in my early 20s. So I started personal training. So I do that. And then after about 4 years of doing that, I got super burnt out, as you can imagine. So I actually went to my now business partner. He's actually my father-in-law as well. And he was in real estate for 20-something years prior, but he got crushed in 2008. So I approached him. I said, I know you're building this new business model, and I don't know if I'm going to like real estate, but it's going to be a heck of a lot better than what I'm doing today. So I approached him and, kind of started from the ground up. He handed me a list of expired listings or people that were on the market at one point and didn't sell. And he said, hey, go ahead and try to see if you can structure some deals. So it took me about 6 months, but ended up getting my first creative financing deal, which is what we're going to talk about later today, and that's how I got started.
Awesome, man. So that was like a big leap of faith, right? From working as a bartender to jumping into real estate without any experience, like zero experience. So what was the turning point that made you took that risk?
Yeah, well, being naive is certainly a part of it, right? Being in your
Yeah.
early 20s, and I didn't have a ton of overhead. I didn't have a ton of, things that, were tying me down. Me and my wife, she also bartended. We were just
hmm
looking for a better life. And we knew that we had to take some sort of risk as, I wasn't going into the corporate space, and
hmm
there's only so much you can do in the industry, as we call it. As a bartender, you either need to make a decision if you want to be in there as a lifer and start buying restaurants or moving to management. And I just didn't see that for my life. So I
hmm
needed to find a new path and saw real estate as that potential pathway to creating some success. So once I got my first deal done, I actually burned the bridges completely and, retired all my clients as a personal trainer. And I think I only bartended like one or two other times after that, as we really hit the ground running with our real estate business, as we had about 4 or 5 of us, and we
hmm
ended up building that out, doing anywhere from 4 to 10 deals a month, all through
Awesome.
creative financing. So it
Yeah.
was certainly a leap of faith for sure. And if I did it today, I probably would have had to have a little bit more of a bridge, knowing I have kids and a wife and house and all that stuff. But needless to say, I mean, I think we built out the business model for people to be able to do that now. So, and I
hmm
was, I'm proof here.
All right. So I do understand, you you have some creative ways to approach
Sure.
the property owners, right? Uh,
Yeah.
but and the business model that you have, can you give us a little bit background about what exactly you do? Like what's
Sure.
the main focus of your business before we dive deep into, the ways that you
Yeah.
approach clients and financing and all those different aspects within the business?
Yeah. So if you kind of take it back to 2008, right? In 2008, the market crashed,
Yeah.
and my business partner was leveraged at that time using traditional bank financing. He had 23 condo conversions going on, and they all went down to a third. So as you can imagine, the amount of banks that were calling him. So
Mm.
the business model then becomes do the opposite of what he did originally in real estate, which was don't put down a whole bunch of money if you don't have to, especially in comparison to the traditional market. There's certain times, of course, that you would. Don't personally sign or guarantee debt.
Mhm.
Because so all the deals that we've done, hundreds of them, and our community members, approaching 1,000, nobody is personally on any of those mortgages. And don't go to banks because the bank financing options, if you can not have to go there, then you're able to create most of the time better deals in our
Huh.
space. So really, no banks, no personal credit, and no large down payments. Now, if you kind of take that into consideration, right, creative financing, in my opinion, is just as much a skill set as it is an investment strategy, right? How do you solve somebody's problem without doing it in a traditional means? Or how do you solve somebody's problem that the traditional means can't solve? Which is what we're seeing more and more of in today's market, right? High interest
Yeah.
rates, which Ted, right? If you're going to go get bank loans and you have higher interest rates, the amount of money you have to put down on that property in order to get a cash flowing asset is significantly higher, right? So then
Sure.
sometimes it
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily make sense. So now that problem, that seller that's originally trying to sell that asset, their problem may not be solved by traditional means anymore. So that's where somebody like myself comes in and now brings these alternative options to still solve that problem.
Awesome. So in short, you market yourself, get get the buyer to agree on your terms, add the creative financing aspect of it, make sure the property cash flows,
Sure.
and then just hold it for the long term, or do you sell it after that? What's the next step?
Yeah, so we have really three main acquisition strategies. I'll just do brief,
Hmm.
and then I know you want to go deep. So I think
Yeah.
this will bring clarity. So we kind of operate on two main spectrums, right? And again, I kind of go back to the problem that we solve because that's in real estate in general,
Yeah.
right? This is a people business, not really a real estate business. It's just
For sure.
if we can solve somebody's problem, then we can buy the piece of real estate or we can
Yeah.
sell the piece of real estate. So we operate on two real main spectrums. You have the financially challenged, right? So you have like people that are over leveraged, are behind on payments, have no equity. So you have that spectrum. And then you have the
Hmm.
complete opposite spectrum, which is debt free, people that are in good financial standings. And we would consider those more like real estate problems. Like they have an asset they don't want to take care of anymore, but they want to figure out a way to cash flow it. So
Yeah.
you have that opposite spectrum. So if you go on the left side where you have a lot of over leverage and debt and behind on payments, we would buy those properties typically knowing as subject to the existing loan. So it just
Okay.
means you go buy the property, you keep the seller's mortgage in place, and then you just close on you and you make payments on their behalf. And then the opposite spectrum, you have seller financing. Somebody that's really good financial standings, they have no mortgage on the property, and now we're going to have them be our bank versus going to a bank.
Hmm.
Now, there's many reasons on which sellers would go that route. And then the last option, which you kind of cover on all spectrums there, is a lease option or a lease purchase agreement, which really just allows you to control the asset without ownership and then have the ability to go sell it. Now that we've acquired these properties through creative financing, one of our main exit strategies is rent to own. It's roughly
Okay.
60 to 80% of the buyers out there in today's market cannot walk into a bank and get a loan. If you're ever looking for a good business model, you go find a underserved audience, right?
Yeah.
Customers, and then you provide an option to them. especially in today's market, high interest rates. People can't qualify for the bank loans that they used to. You also have high purchase prices right now, which creates an affordability issue. Yeah. We can solve both those problems with a rent-to-own program. So now what we then do is we go find people that can't qualify for bank loans today, either because of credit or seasoning or just timing. And then we now allow them to come move into a property, and through our program, we then help them qualify for bank loan. Now, because we do that, we established our federally trademarked 3 payday system, which then allows us to create money up front, so non-refundable deposits that we're collecting from our buyers. We then also are creating passive cash flow because it's now we're receiving rent, and we are building equity into these deals, which then in the future, we get cash out a nice equity position at the end as well. So that's kind of our business model in a short summary.
Yeah. So out of these 3 strategies that you just mentioned, right? The first one you mentioned is you not assume, I would say, the loan, but subject to the current mortgage, right?
So assumption would assume that right? That you would have to go qualify for that bank loan.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead, what we're doing is we are just going to buy the property, keep the mortgage in place, right? So if you compare it to a traditional sale, what do you have to do? If you go buy a property, you're going to have to go get new financing to pay off the original financing. For most cases, unless you have cash.
That's right.
So instead of us doing that, we're going to just keep that mortgage in place. So it'll actually show up on the HUD, the closing statement. And then now we are contractually obligated to make payments on the seller's behalf. This is what allows us to buy real estate that has no equity in it, or that has little equity in it, right? So that way we can go ahead and still make a profitable deal because we don't have to get new financing.
Does normally owner agree to it, or maybe how do you make them agree? Let me put it that way. Because it's always why I keep the mortgage when I'm selling the property. It's not always that in the back of the mind.
Sure, yeah, and then you kind of go back to convincing, right? I get this asked all the time, like, how do you convince these sellers?
Yeah.
Well, we're not convincing it. We're solving a problem, right? And there's a lot of problems that the seller is not worried about you making payments on their behalf, right? Because let's assume a seller's behind on payments. What's their options? They're either going to continue to be behind on payments, their credit's going to go down, and then if they have to go to a foreclosure or a short sale, their credit's going to go down even further for a very long time.
Yeah.
So, or if the seller has no equity in the property, what's their options? Then their option is that if they want to actually sell this thing, they have to go pay out of pocket the agent to sell it. So if we walk into this deal and we say, look, you can either walk away without having to make any more payments or have to pay any type of agents or closing costs. Oh, and by the way, instead of you continue to miss payments and ruin your credit, we'll actually be making payments on your behalf, which means that your credit's going to improve over the next couple of years because we're a professional real estate company. So instead, what we see now is the buyer that's in a challenging, or the seller that's in a challenging situation right now, is going to be bankable way more quickly later because we're now showing that somebody else is servicing their loan, and we're also improving their credit over the course of many years. So that way now they have better credit and they can go eventually buy another property.
All right. And and on the other strategies that you mentioned, right? At least you need a little down payment, or you just roll everything up.
Good question. So we kind of operate in 4 quadrants. It's the kind of best way to put it. So when we're structuring a creative deal, you really have 4 different things. You have purchase price, you have down payment, you have interest rate or monthly payment, you have time frame or term. And down payment is just one of those. So, and quite frankly, down payment doesn't solve most people's problems. So like, for example, if I'm buying a property debt-free on seller financing, meaning the seller is going to be the bank. So instead of me now, when I go close on it, going to get financing from a bank, I'm just going to go to the seller and say, hey, would you now be able to provide the financing? So now I'm just making the payments to the seller on the... making the payments to the seller, so now they have a mortgage. So with that being said, that particular seller, if they're debt free, they don't need money today, right? Because if they did, they would have refinanced.
Yeah.
There's usually another underlining challenge that is more relevant than a down payment. It could be purchase price, right? If they go on the traditional market, they're not going to be able to get their price, or they're going to have to pay commissions, right? So now they're going to have less profit. So in my circumstance, I can pay them a higher price potentially, and I can avoid commissions as long as they don't need the money today. Or it could be a tired landlord. Landlords own the property for many years. They don't want to end their dream of receiving passive income, but they just don't want to deal with tenants, toilets, or trash anymore. So now I step in and say, hey, look, I can continue to make monthly payments as if you're receiving cash flow from the tenants, but instead I'll be the owner. I'll manage that. I'll handle all of that. And now you're just going to receive mailbox money as we make payments on their behalf.
Awesome. Right. So, Zach, can you run us through one of the real world example of this creative finance, including numbers and how did you do it?
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm happy to walk through it. Any particular strategy you want me to walk through first?
The most difficult one you faced.
The
How about
most
that?
difficult one I faced. Well, I'll do the most impactful. So
All right, that's good.
I was calling on a seller. He lived in Indiana. This gentleman, he owned a secondary house in the state of Connecticut. I'm in Massachusetts. We were buying in that radius. When I reached out to him, he was on the market, but then expired. So he attempted to sell with an agent. Didn't happen. His challenge that he was facing was he actually had a daughter who passed away. So this is a very sad scenario, and a bit extreme. But you should just understand the emotions behind it, right? So the seller doesn't ever want to come back to the Connecticut property because that was like their vacation home, and they didn't want to spend the time with anybody else there. So when I spoke to him, he was looking for an option to sell, and of course the market didn't allow him. So the property was debt free. So I spoke to the seller. He had a very particular price in mind, and I said, okay, we can agree to that price. We agreed to about $399,000. So I said to him, okay, if we can get you to that price, then we would then close on it, and then you would become our bank. So this is a seller financing scenario. The state of Connecticut has high taxes. So I said to him, what the challenge here, though, is I'm not going to be able to pay you a lot on a monthly basis because the taxes are going to eat at all of our cash flow. And I certainly want to be able to provide a solution, but I'm unable to unless I can cash flow this thing. And I think it was about $750 a month. So he actually came to me and said, hey, how about we agree on $1,000 a month, principal only. So 0% interest is going to come directly off the balance. So I said, okay, great. He said, but I just need it to be cashed out in 4 years. So the terms of the deal are we're buying it at $399. We're going to put no money down, just closing costs. He's then going to finance the property, and he has a $1,000 0% interest payment to him. And then we cover everything else. So we went ahead and we bought the property and we sold it on rent to own to a local entrepreneur that traveled. Quite often they made like these concrete bricks. He came to the table. We ended up buying it for $399. We sold it for $429. And we sold it for, I think it was like just over a $3,000 payment. So we ended up cash flowing like $750 a month. We collected $40,000 up front and then $40,000 over time. So in our structure, our non-refundable deposit is what we call a payday one. So that's the money that comes directly into your pocket today. It is non-refundable. It is credited towards the purchase price. So we got $40,000 up front when they move in and $40,000 over time. So that's $80K in our pocket. We're now going to cash flow this because the buyer is treated like and acted like a homeowner, so they manage everything. We simply just get a rent payment. So we're collecting roughly $750 a month in rent. So if you multiply that over 48 months, that's another, say $20,000. And then this is the kicker, though. This is the big thing. So I understand that you might not get a deal like this every month, but if you can get one once a year by being in the business, it's certainly possible. We're now also getting $1,000 paying off that loan every single month in which we pay the seller. That's $48,000 in principal pay down over 48 months. This buyer ended up cashing us out, and we made over six figures on that deal. So if you can get a 0% interest rate, I can actually give you a rule of thumb here. This is just for seller financing. So if you can buy a property for $199,000 or more purchase price, if you're getting at least a $950 principal only payment or higher, and if you get a 48-month balloon and you sell it on rent to own, our rule of thumb is that's a six-figure deal.
Wow, that's good to know, man. That's great.
Sure.
Yeah, that was good insight. So now we talked about the creating financing aspect of it, right? How do you sort, or how do you, what are the strategies to approach these homeowners? Like, first of all, like, what are your filter condition? I need to go to these class of homeowners or the property owners, and what are the methods that you use to connect with them?
Yeah, great question. So there's kind of two buckets, right? You have the direct to seller bucket, and then you have the like networking bucket, really. So direct to seller, expired listings, for sale by owners, pre-foreclosures, direct mail, anything that's going directly to a very specific seller. To give you an example, like expired listings have been our bread and butter since day one. They're very easy to get a hold of. They've said they wanted to sell, and the market has told them that based upon their current price and condition, it's not good enough to sell. So we have those buckets. The secondary bucket is going to your local RIA, right? Being a part of a community, networking with wholesalers, fix and flippers, realtors, because there are so many deals that network has that they don't know how to provide a solution to. So like, for example, I bought a property from a real estate agent. She was on the market for quite a long time. The sellers actually relocated to Maryland. They have zero money to be able to sell, zero money to pay for closing costs, realtor commissions, anything like that. So this agent actually went and put $10,000 into improving the property to sell it. Well, it didn't do the job. So when I was actually approached from a friend of mine that said, hey, there's this real estate deal. It's in Woonsocket, Rhode Island. Property's in great condition. We just have to be able to have somebody to come commit and buy this property. Now, I ended up buying this property subject to the existing loan. Sellers had a great interest rate at like 4%. And all I need to do is pay closing costs and pay the realtor commission of the $10,000. So I went in, stepped in and purchased that property, and then I went in and sold it on rent to own. That deal in itself is going to make somewhere around $80,000 over the next 3 years. And so I give you that example because that agent didn't know what to do with that property. She was actually about to lose $10,000 because that property is eventually going to expire. Or those buyers were going to stop making payment, or those original sellers were going to stop making payments because they couldn't afford their rent in Maryland and their mortgage up here in Rhode Island. So it's just keeping that awareness. Or if you like go to the local wholesaler, right, that has better, I'm talking like move-in ready condition properties, because know that they're making lots and lots and lots of offers, right? And they're spending lots of money on marketing. But if that deal doesn't fit inside their box, meaning like they can't buy it for 60 cents on the dollar, 70 cents on the dollar, that's a lost lead now. So instead I say, send them over to me. If I buy the property, I'll give you a referral fee. And then that's now how you can either go direct to seller or work within the real estate investment ecosphere.
All right. And any specific tools or websites that you use during this process?
Yeah, we have a handful of tools in which we use. Land Voice is a partnership that we have. If you go to smartrealestatecoach.com/land voice, get you, I think, a discounted price. That's one. PropStream we've used in the past many times for other leads. But I mean, those are two very inexpensive tools you can use.
Awesome. All right. So now, Zach, if any like the W-2 employees, right? If they want to get started in the real estate, finding these deals or doing this creative finance, what are your recommendations? Like how can they start while they are working full time?
Yeah, it's about 90% of our community starts full time, and then we help people retire every single year. And here's why. You and I both know, like, by going out there and acquiring, say, single families or multifamilies, the cash flow, like to base your retirement specifically just on cash flow, is going to be an extended period of time before you can eventually retire, right? I mean, if you're doing $300 a door, there's so many of those doors that you need to acquire before you can then say, I have $10,000 a month in passive income that I can now retire. By utilizing the rent to own or a 3 payday system, you're now able to receive large lump sums along with cash flow, which significantly speeds up the process. Because if you think about it this way, let's just say, so for many years, our non-refundable deposits are roughly $27,000. Okay. So if somebody has a $150,000 salary that they need to eclipse, right, in order to retire, they need to do 6 deals a year, which is not daunting, right? Plus they're receiving the cash flow, plus they can count on in the next 1 to 3 to 5 years to receive more lump sums.
Yeah.
So this is how we can create,
also, right?
Yeah, this is how you can start stacking deals to eventually retire. So I kind of lay that groundwork to say most people are going to start off part-time, right? We're going to start off part-time. We're going to build this around your schedule. And we're going to then help you create the initial first steps that are needed to start creating a predictable real estate business. Because if I want to retire, I need there to be predictability, right? That's why most people stay in a W-2 job. It's predictable. They know they receive their paycheck every single week. You know, they count on it. They budget on it. So instead, what we're going to share with them is over the next, say, 1 to 3 years, we're going to help you build consistent deal flow that then spits out consistent revenue. So that way you can then say, yep, I'm ready to go ahead and step off the treadmill. Like, for example, we have a gentleman, Rick. He's up in Nashville, New Hampshire. He's one of our coaches now. He was a defense contractor and head of all the engineers in defense contracting out of Boston and working for the government. He worked for 30 years and then realized, I do not have enough retirement to live the lifestyle I want. So he came to our community and we helped him build this part-time while he had 180 people directly reporting to him. So then we helped him do his first deal, and then that built his confidence, and then he did his next deal. And then now he's sharing with people in our community, and you guys will love this too. I know we have a lot of engineers and tech people listening to this. We have very specific spreadsheets you can plug in your numbers to eventually create predictability to eventually leave your job. So that's where we really build this out, is starting out part-time to eventually go full-time in real estate.
And that's a great thing, man. Helping all the people who are interested in real estate, helping them retire, get their freedom back.
For sure.
Nothing better you can do for them, right?
For sure. It's not it's not going to be easy, but if you have a big enough why, right, and you have something that you're really working towards and a big enough vision, then certainly we have seen an impact utilizing this model in 80 plus markets, helping people retire and creating a much better lifestyle.
So it's all about mindset, as you mentioned, right?
Sure.
You need to have that mindset to make sure you are disciplined, you are motivated, and you put the hard work that is required. Nothing comes for free. Even if even if you give them the whole plan, what exactly you do, if people don't have the right mindset on how to utilize those, it's not going to work. So it's the first thing is the mindset. So anything that you want to tell about the mindset that the investor needs to be in to get successful in their life or in the business.
It's the biggest component, right? If you listen to every major, personal development, mentor out there, they're going to tell you that. We actually interviewed Brian Tracy in our podcast, and we always thought it was, 80%, but he actually recommended it was actually 90% mindset to do any real estate, to do any business period, whether it's real estate or something else. Yeah. We have our genius model, which is basically how we've created this community over a decade now. And mindset's at the top. Mindset, skill set, and systems. Yeah. You can't develop the skills. What we found is you can't develop the skills or the systems unless you have the mindset, meaning the certain behaviors, right? The certain habits consistently, and a certain way of thinking consistently, because that drives the rest of it. If you're not a growth-minded person and you don't believe that you can change your life, then of course you're not going to join a community and start to build a business. You would just keep doing what you're doing. That's what we call a fixed mindset, right? So
Yeah.
it's the biggest component, and it's going to be the number one determination of, are you going to be able to make that change in life, assuming that's what you want to do because you're listening to this podcast, is to eventually create a better lifestyle. Well, where you are today is based upon the thoughts and behaviors and actions that you took up until this point. So now we have to help revamp that. And really, that's why our community has been based upon a massive support system, so that way we can show you, right, your blind spots sometimes and be like, okay, well, you said this and you wanted this, but you're doing this. So now let's make some adjustments, and then let's get back after it, so that way we can go ahead and help you reach your goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't agree more on you, because I'm also a believer, like, the famous quote from Napoleon Hill book, you become what you think about, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
Good or bad, right?
Yeah. Good or bad. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Right. So now, how can you have the whole coaching program, right? Can you just summarize the coaching program, like what all things it covers, how
Sure.
long it is? And so, that might be helpful for anyone who's interested.
Yeah, I'll give you a broad stroke. So we operate on really two completely different parallels. So we have our entry level coaching, which is more group coaching, which is basically, think of it as like your first 90 days of entering into your creative financing business. You get access directly to coaching courses and guidance. And we have a 2.5-day in-person training to really help you implement and drive this business. But I'm a big believer in that if you really want to make a change and increase your goals, starting there is great, but that's like dipping your toe in the water, right? That's not a full commitment. We have what we call our associates, which are in 80 plus markets, and where we literally do deals with them. And that is almost like strapping us on as a partner, where we'll help you not only set up the front end business, but we'll help you implement it. It's called done with you. So if you're speaking with sellers and you just jump on the phone, we go ahead and jump on the phone. If you're in a negotiation with a seller trying to work through deals, we then work through the deals. And then once you get them under agreement, we help you put them into your portfolio and then go ahead and sell them to maximize your profits. And we work with you the life of that deal, because we knew that if the only way to really drastically make a change is full immersion, it's being in it with you in the trenches consistently, so that way you can work the business. That's our associates as well. So you think of it as like an A to Z, helping you build out your business. Because if you listen to this and you want to do a deal or two, that's absolutely amazing. We can certainly help you do that. But really, we work with a lot of people that are really trying to build out a consistent business over the next couple years and beyond, so that way you can develop that consistent income to either retire or create a better lifestyle for you and your family.
Okay. Now, talking about building the business, right, to scale and grow, what do you think, what are the biggest mistakes that you've seen new investors making while scaling their business?
Yeah, the biggest challenge always is 0 to 1. That's always the biggest thing, right?
Always.
Because we're trying to develop the skill set. We most of us walk in with some mindset challenges at the beginning, which is absolutely normal. I certainly still have them. And then we're working on developing the skill set and the systems at the same time, and working in a business that's foreign to us at this point, unless you have real estate experience, which that could speed up the process for sure. So it's at 0 to 1. So if I looked at that marker, I would just say that it's the inability to be patient. That is going to be the biggest factor. And I know that you asked a scaling question. But if we don't develop the right skill sets at the beginning, which are basically the number one fundamentals or the key fundamentals for the entire business, at the beginning, then we become impatient, and then impatience leads to people quitting and not moving forward, which is the number one challenge, right? At the end of the day.
That's true.
Last year we did a 12-month look back, and we averaged about a deal per community member, which if you compare that to the rest of the industry, it has roughly a 4% success rate. And so we are significantly investing a ton of time and effort and support to ensure that people have the ability to go ahead and reach that first deal, and then reach the deals moving forward.
Yeah. The first deal, as you mentioned, it's very important, right? It just creates confidence in yourself. And once you have the first deal under the belt, the ball starts rolling.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Ted, you know that like people ask two questions anytime they're looking to either start a business or invest. Maybe it's invest with you guys, right? And it's two questions. It's does it work? Does this work? Can you prove to me that this model works? And then
Yeah.
does it work in my area, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So once that question's answered, the second question is, can I do it? Am I able to do it? So the first deal proves to them that they can do it. And then
It
once
works and
they
then
know it
do it.
works
Yeah.
and they can do it, sky's the limit.
That's true. All right, Zach. Hey, loving this conversation, but also want to be mindful of your time. So before we move on to the final round of questions, is there anything else you'd like to add for our listeners?
I would just tell them, hey, I'd love to put a book in each and every one of you guys' hands, along with much else. We actually ship our first Amazon bestseller for free. All you have to do is just go to wickedsmartbooks.com. Just go to wickedsmartbooks.com, put in your information. We'll literally ship you off a physical copy along with a bunch of other great stuff in a package. Because I know I'm not going to be naive. I can't teach creative financing in 30 minutes. We're barely scratching the surface.
That's
What
right.
I really want to do is just share with you a new way of doing real estate to either currently add this on to what you're doing or to build this as the endeavor in real estate to help you retire. And I know that diving deeper into it, such as a book or such as one of our master's classes, is going to go a long way. So again, wickedsmartbooks.com. Go ahead and grab your book.
Sounds great, man. All right, Zach, we'll move on to the final round of questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. So the first one, which is the one book that had the most impact on your life or on your business?
You Were Born Rich by Bob Proctor.
Okay.
Still read it to this day.
What is it about? Just a summary?
Yeah, if you don't know Bob Proctor studied Napoleon Hill, which you mentioned earlier, for 50 years. And he was also a speaker in The Secret. So it's all about, creating a vision, then, really building the process and then sticking to it. So it's a complete mindset change when it comes to at least my original approach to this. So amazing book, You Were Born Rich.
All right. What are your main source of information to learn and grow?
I listen to an Audible a month. I wish I could read more, but I got a 5 and a 7-year-old. So right now I'm in like the listening phase and I can read a little bit. So I would say between Audibles and podcasts are my two main places.
Awesome. And what is the one habit or routine that has been crucial to your success?
Working out every morning as often as possible. It just gets me up, ready, and gets my energy up to take on the rest of the day.
Sounds great. Final question. How can Decoding Cashflow listeners get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can find us on all the major platforms, but the number one place that I believe that people pick up the most amount of information is on our YouTube channel. If you go to smartrealestatecoach.com/YouTube, I know I covered a deal with you, walked through some examples, but we have over 400 deal structure Sundays is what we call them. So you can really dive into the deals, see how they work. So that's an amazing place to grab a whole bunch of information from us.
Sounds great, man. Zach, it was a pleasure having you on the show, and we'll surely stay in touch.
Thanks, Ted. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for listening to Decoding Cashflow, brought to you by Aster Capital. If you found value in this episode, then please share it with someone who you think could benefit from it. And make sure to act on what you've learned. If you want Ted Patel to personally help you reach your goals, then feel free to set up a one-on-one call with him. Also, visit us at astercapital.com for more free resources. Content of this podcast is for informational purposes only. As always, please consult your own advisor before making any investment decisions or setting a course of action. Thanks again for joining us on this episode of Decoding Cashflow, and we'll catch you in the next episode.